But first I want to say thank you for letting me be here and be a part of this discussion on preserving our digital history and for the opportunity to tell the story of the Rocky Mountain News. I hope you'll agree that the Rockies' legacy is worth preserving. So when William Byers brought the first printing press to the mining camp of Denver in 1859, he never imagined that the paper he started, the Rocky Mountain News, would be a part of a discussion on preserving digital news content in 2014. Byers hauled his printing press by ox cart from Omaha. He set up shop on the second floor of a general store and saloon. Denver wasn't yet a city, and Colorado wasn't yet a state, but there was gold in those mountains. After assembling his press, Byers put the first edition of the Rocky on the streets just 20 minutes ahead of his competitor, the Cherry Creek Pioneer. The Rocky became the first paper in what would become Colorado and would go on to become the second oldest continuously operated business in the state until it closed in 2009. The Rocky grew with the region from a wooden shack to the leading paper in the new capital city of Denver. Colorado became a state in 1876. The paper enjoyed great success through the early 1900s and featured full-color news and advertising. In 1926, Scripps Howard bought the Rocky. The paper celebrated its 75th anniversary in 1934, but competition from other local papers was fierce. By the early 1940s, the paper was struggling. In an effort to revive the ailing paper, Rocky editor Jack Foster convinced Scripps to let him change the Rocky to a tabloid format in 1942. The idea worked. The paper enjoyed increased circulation and rebounded from the doldrums. The readers liked the easy-to-hold format and the energy of the tab. Along the way, Foster also introduced another innovation, the first advice column in newspapers. The column Molly Mayfield was written by his wife, Frances, and became the model for Dear Abby and Ann Landers. Under Foster's guidance, the Rocky moved from a paper on the brink of closing to one of the largest circulation of any Scripps paper. The Rocky was an early adopter of electronic news. After starting a bulletin board dial-up page in 1990, the paper launched its first true website in 1994. As with most websites of that era, much of that content of those early web pages is lost to history. Meanwhile, the printed format remained popular till the end and fueled the Rockies' war with the Denver Post. In 2000, the Rockies' owners, the E.W. Scripps Company, grew tired of the newspaper war and entered into a joint operating agreement with the Denver Post. The Post got the upper hand in the JOA. Undaunted, the Rocky battled the Post by devoting extensive space and manpower to covering the news. The Rocky led the Post in subscribers in the metro area. The Post had the lead in the outlying areas of the state. Extra efforts went into developing a potent website as well. The Rockies' efforts resulted in a string of 4 Pulitzer Prize wins between 2000 and 2006. The paper continued to look for ways to create a more reader-friendly product. In 2002, the Rocky redesigned the paper and shrunk the size of the tab. Focus groups at the time told us that they liked the magazine-like format and convenient size. One reader told us, "I like it because it fits on the steering wheel of my truck." The Rocky took advantage of every medium at its command to dig deeper into the issues of the day. In 2004, the paper introduced this series of special sections on the political divide in America. At the same time, it created a companion Red Blue America website to foster discussion and political debate. Special projects were the hallmark of the Rocky in its last decade. This story, Final Salute, on a Marine casualty notification squad and the families who suffered loss in the Iraq War, won 2 Pulitzer Prizes in 2006, one for feature writing, one for feature photography. Another image from Final Salute. The Rocky made it a point to augment its print projects with bonus online content, including audio slideshows, videos, and online forums. In 2007, the Rocky redesigned the paper once again to give it a true magazine feel, with carefully conceived covers and a rule that said that stories had to jump to a facing or following page. The emphasis was on ease of use for readers. The Rocky became a web-first paper in the mid-2000s. Reporters posted frequent updates as stories developed throughout the day. Staffers tweeted live news and photos, and then finished up with the printed product in the evening. Editors worked the online news desk from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m., Monday through Friday, and for shorter stints on the weekend. The Rocky's photo department produced daily news videos and audio slideshows, as well as more in-depth pieces for the web. And city columnist Mark Wolf hosted a daily video podcast. In March 2007, the Rocky began a 34-part series looking back at the impact of the state's worst traffic accident, which occurred decades earlier. A train hit a school bus. 20 children were killed, 17 survived. The Rocky told the story of how that event helped shape the people of a community for the rest of their lives. Daily installments of The Crossing were rolled out in print and online each day. As the series progressed, The Crossing became a community event, driving heavy web traffic, readership forums, and discussion on other media. At its conclusion, 700 people jammed a town meeting sponsored by the Greeley Historical Society to discuss the series. Attendees included survivors and their families, others who had been somehow involved, and those who were simply touched by the story. In the end, a monument paid for by hundreds of strangers was dedicated at a remote, wind-swept spot in the High Plains, the site of The Crossing. Reporter Kevin Vaughn was a Pulitzer finalist for this project. Despite the commitment to in-depth projects and a vigorous web presence, the economic downturn and media competition took its toll on the Rocky. In December 2008, Scripps put the paper up for sale. The handwriting was on the wall. On February 26, 2009, Scripps told the newsroom that the next day's edition would be the last. The ticker on the Rocky building shared the news with Denver. The paper closed 55 days short of its 150th birthday. The last print edition of the Rocky featured a special souvenir wrap section with a cover treatment reminiscent of that first edition of the Rocky, printed by William Byers in that room above the saloon so many years earlier. And of course, we reported on our own demise online, with links to special reports and videos. The final Twitter feed from the Rocky's news desk still lingers online today. The day after the final edition, the owner of the Denver Post wasted no time in removing the Rocky sign from our shared building. I was asked to stay on for 3 months after the last edition and dispose of the Rocky's assets. From camera gear to HR files to the paper's paper and digital archives, everything had to go. Our floor was to be leased out to new tenants. In the midst of this chaos, we had to find a way to preserve the legacy of the Rocky. Before he left, editor John Temple approached the Denver Public Library and the Colorado Historical Society about preserving our digital and paper files. Here are some of my notes from working with Jim Kroll on moving our files to the library. While I worked to move the paper's digital and other assets to good homes, demolition of the newsroom began. Time was running out. With only me and my assistant working those last months, the newsroom took on a creepy character as we hurried to finish up and get out. In addition to digital and paper files, we looked for homes for memorabilia, for framed photos and newsroom wall displays like this one. The fate of this Pulitzer display was up in the air until the 11th hour, when Jim was finally able to dismantle it and take it to the library. It now waits in a crate for the Rockies images to appear on the library's web pages. My thanks to Jim for rescuing this display that I designed and hung in 2006 when we first moved into that building. In 2013, Scripps and the City of Denver finalized a contract making the Denver Public Library the owner of the Rockies artifacts and files. I give credit to Scripps for recognizing that the Rocky Archives are a collective memory of Denver that should be preserved and shared with future generations. Now, while the memory of the Rocky lives on in the hearts of its readers and former staffers, its stories and memories have found a permanent home at the Denver Public Library. I'm honored to have been a part of the Rocky Mountain News and to be part of this important discussion today here with you on preserving our digital history. Thank you.